Coming up, a perfect storm of high winds and drought conditions fuels the flames that engulf huge areas of one of America's most wildfire-prone cities.
I mean, I've never seen anything. Fires were this close to the cars.
It's nothing like that's ever at least happened to me before.
2,000 people are burned alive, and a fierce battle over what and who's to blame dominates the headlines.
What's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job.
And if you are talking about this kind of size of a state, you will have at least to prepare these kind of things. And they were not ready.
But nothing prepares you for this amount of destruction.
Just 2 degrees is on now.
It's not even fire season. There's a good chance that the worst is yet to come.
Wildfires, they're becoming more widespread, more intense, more destructive, just more. And they're burning at least twice as many trees as they did 20 years ago, according to the World Resources Institute. But why? Well, these days people flippantly throw around the response it's because of climate change quite a bit. But let's break that down a bit. First, a wildfire, like any flame, starts with a spark. Even before the wildfires in Los Angeles made international headlines, dozens of smaller blazes had already been reported across California this year. But it was only in the second week that they got so bad that evacuations, destruction, and even death sparked a political storm as well. The first images surfaced on January 7th a thick cloud of smoke above the Los Angeles suburbs. Beneath them, flames burned more than 80 hectares in a spot full of multi-million-dollar homes in an area known as the Pacific Palisades. This was tweeted by LA Mayor Karen Bass. The scene would soon evolve into something resembling films of Armageddon.
But nothing prepares you for this amount of destruction. I mean, there's no manual, there's no book.
It wasn't long before more fires broke out. The Hearst fire in the suburban area of Sylmar, the Woodley fire in the Sepulveda Basin neighborhood. Then on January 8th, the Eaton fire in Altadena.
I mean, I've never seen anything. Fires were this close to the cars.
But in less than 48 hours after firefighters were dispatched, hydrants were running dry, forcing tough decisions to balance water for extinguishing efforts and residential use.
The county turned off our water supply, so we're out there with shovels throwing dirt on fires.
Is the city prepared regarding fire hydrants and water pressure?
I believe the city is prepared.
Complicating efforts even further were very powerful winds that spread the embers, sparking another, the Sunset Fire, which broke out in the Hollywood Hills. California's fire department deployed several helicopters and tankers to douse what they said was the most intense fire activity in the area. Authorities on January 9th took stock of the damage and announced the destruction of at least 2,000 homes, businesses and other buildings. More than 95,000 people had lost power, and air pollution levels were 11 times above the World Health Organization's recommended limit. And amidst the chaos, American politicians started to chime in. President-elect Donald Trump blamed the wildfires on California's Democratic governor and a tiny fish.
It's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called the smelt. And for the sake of the smelt, they have no water. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job.
You have put a call into President-elect Trump. Has he called you back?
No, that was months ago. That was after his victory. So I look forward to him again coming out here in the spirit of cooperation.
Forgive me for interrupting you, but you did invite him to come out here. Have you had any response?
No.
Nothing.
Looking on from Washington, the outgoing President Joe Biden announced a major disaster declaration for California.
The federal government will cover 100% of the cost for 180 days. It's going to pay for things like debris and hazard material removal, temporary shelters, first responders' salaries, and all necessary measures to protect life and property.
The funds would also be directed to the devastation caused by the Kenneth Fire, which broke out in the West Hills neighborhood.
It's been very traumatic.
With the federal government's backing, Governor Newsom deployed 8,000 members of the National Guard to help combat fires and prevent looting. LA police arrested a man they suspected of arson, and an investigation began to determine whether the Kenneth Fire was deliberately set. And on January 13th, 9 people were charged with looting in the Pacific Palisades and Altadena.
They have been charged with first-degree residential burglary. They've been charged with looting. They've been charged with grand theft.
There were other smaller fires, including the auto fire, named after the large number of auto dealerships in the impacted area, that left tens of thousands of people without power. Some turned to their faith.
The message today was that we're not alone, that all of us are without homes.
Today's invitation to prayer was everything.
At the time of this report, at least 6 big fires were still burning in Los Angeles, and the news from the National Weather Service, which warned that after a week of heavy losses, high winds were returning. Southern California was again facing a particularly dangerous situation. We reached out to quite a few people in Los Angeles. Kazim and Zahra Sherazee are siblings who live there. What was it like when you were at home and this evacuation order came in?
Yeah, so we were all asleep, and it was 5 a.m, and my phone just started blaring with the Amber Alert, and it was an evacuation order. We didn't get a warning beforehand. Our power had been out the night before, and I'd kind of driven out at night just to see what was going on, and the power was out in the whole area. There were no traffic lights on, and it was a little bit chaotic in the streets, but and yeah, I saw the fire on the Angeles Mountains when I was driving toward Pasadena. like on the north side, and there was like a big line of fire just across the mountain. So I knew that something was up and we might be evacuated, but we didn't get a warning until we just got the order on Wednesday to basically leave. And so yeah, I woke everybody in the family up, and we were in a car and out the house like 30 minutes later.
And you both can jump in whenever you like to respond, but I'm guessing you were super afraid at that time.
Yeah, of course. It was nothing like that's ever at least happened to me before. And it was a really scary situation. But like waking up at 5 a.m., we all just had to jump out. Like we didn't really have much time to think. We didn't pack anything. So we always, at the back of our mind, we had the thought, like, if anything happened to our house, we kind of lost everything in it because we didn't have any time to pack up or do anything.
Your friends, your family, how are they doing?
I have a lot of friends who have lost their homes and like their childhood homes, places they grew up in or places they always went to growing up. So it's been a really hard time for a lot of my friends trying to rebuild their life. Everyone's been super helpful though. So there are people who've been setting up GoFundMe's for them to raise money to kind of rebuild their lives and help them in any way we can. But for a lot of people, a lot of my friends at least, it's been a really hard time. They've all lost a lot.
There's a lot of politics happening, at least in front of the cameras. Firstly, how old are you two? And what is your perception of what's happening between Governor Newsom and the incoming president?
I'm 15, and well, I have not given much thought about it, but I guess with the fires and everything, it's been a hard time, and I'm not
I'm 26. I'm not familiar exactly. Could you say more about the political
I know
situation?
President Trump, well, the incoming president, Donald Trump, he's been blaming Gavin Newsom for everything that's happening. He says that there's not enough water for the firefighters. Trump has said stuff like he's not going to support firefighters when he comes in, when fires will predictably happen in the future. There's a lot of back and forth in terms of this insensitive debate around firefighting and around what the state needs and does not need or may not need for itself, and the needs of people who live there. And it just seems like a very insensitive thing. But obviously you guys don't necessarily follow the politics very much, which is fine. But is this the first LA fire you've seen?
It's the first one I've been a part of, yes. First like major wildfire, yeah.
Does it make you worried in terms of the idea that it may be getting worse in the future? Because as many people say, climate change will make droughts more intense, will make winds more intense, and hence forest fires more intense.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly it's and like last year I was in British Columbia in Canada, and we dealt with some fires about this time last year, like the Joe Ridge fires. And I think, yeah, for sure, climate change is making a more flammable environment here in Western North America and, you know, all over the world. So yeah, it's not even fire season. I think there's a good chance that the worst is yet to come. And so, yeah, it's a precarious situation, I think, here in LA. We're not sure. There's strong winds tomorrow. We're not sure about tomorrow. So, yeah.
Wow. That's an interesting point you just made, that it's not even fire season as yet. Do you and your family have a backup plan in case of the worst case scenario?
We have my sister lives in San Francisco, and that's it's a safer, Northern California is definitely safer right now than here. So that's what we did when we got the order. When we knew that we weren't going to be home for a few days, we drove up to San Francisco. So that's that's the emergency plan, is just go to my sister. All
right. Well, I'm really glad to see you guys are safe. I know it must be really scary. And I mean, California itself is a wildfire, earthquake-prone area. It's so much stress just to live there. Imagine for young people of your ages. But thanks so much for speaking with us, and I hope you guys remain safe. Please, anytime you can, just keep us updated on what's happening with you guys, okay?
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kazim, Zahra. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Reagan. Bye.
Servet Bukce is a Turkish business owner in the Los Angeles area. He's got serious concerns about the state's annual fires and the potential effects on his family.
What are you seeing where you are? What's it been like?
Well, it's been a total catastrophic situation in the city because they probably get cut off the guard, as they confessed it, because the sources in the city look like it's not enough. So what causes the problem is that people were not expecting, because we were not issued any warning whatsoever. So the wind was obvious that it's gonna come, but they didn't think that it's gonna cause wildfire is this big. And I mean, the area, thank God, it's just divided into many parts of the city, but the Palisades and the Malibu side by the ocean, because when the city is next to the ocean, it picks up the wind, it's a little faster. And also the air quality is the biggest issue, because when we wake up in the morning, we'll see ashes all over the cars, on top of the cars, and I can see that the air quality shows really low, especially we have some, air purifier machines. They can test the quality of the air. It says super low, and people probably need to wear masks.
I can call you a really great Turkish success story. You left Turkey a while back. You built a business for yourself, a name for yourself in Los Angeles.
Right.
But these fires are a problem. Are you afraid?
Well, there are two sides of the story. Now, yes, we will not expect any incoming tourists at this time, for sure. But what we can help also to the community, and also to boost our business, we expect some relief packages from the government. But before that, we would like to we already started offering housing and accommodation and transportation for people who lost their lives. I mean,
so you're doing that with your business?
Yeah. We just open our housing option to our people, to at least offer accommodation for a short period of time. Especially, we are partnering up with Airbnb. They also offer 2 weeks of free stay for those who lost their homes. So we partnered with Airbnb to offer our available units and houses, and also the cars that are needed to be transported. But in the end, it's going to affect our business, of course, tremendously, because we don't know how long it's going to take to rebuild the city. We were a little surprised by the actions of the government, especially the mayor of LA, were not even here. And she was in Ghana when the fire took place. So she had some political, I don't know what she was describing, but she was in Ghana when the fire took place, and she came back right after the second day, I thought. But
what about Gavin Newsom, the governor? Where's he been?
Well, he showed up to the scenes, especially in Palisades, and tried to help people, but people were furious because, I mean, we're talking about a state with the largest economy in the US and 5th in the world. So if you have such a large scale, like if they usually say, the officials say, if California was a country, it will be the 5th largest economy. And if you are talking about this kind of size of a state, you will have at least to prepare this kind of things. And they were not ready. They were not expecting this big wildfires at the same time. And unfortunately, the fire department chief that was selected by the Karen Bass mayor herself said that we failed, the leadership is failed, and they cannot just take any more action other than asking help. And what surprises me is that the federal government try to help as much as they can, but I think the help they send is super limited. I just read Joe Biden's highlights, and he's just trying to help as much as they can, but people lost their homes. Like, it is. Yeah.
I heard people have lost homes that they've lived in all their lives there. I know the federal and local authorities are trying to work together to resolve this. But we've been talking about California's wildfires for years now, and they're just getting worse. In your specific case, what happens if these wildfires, which is your home, your business, and you lose everything? What happens then?
Well, that's the question that now people are asking, because it is not a rumors. It is a fact that insurance companies a few months ago really canceled the policies of the people and their homes. The fire insurance is already expensive in the city, especially if you reside in the hills or Palisades area. The insurance companies avoid to give you an insurance, and if they do, they give you a tremendous prices that people barely afford. And the most of the people's insurances were canceled because
Why?
I mean, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but the insurance companies always have issues with California's natural disasters, especially they also have the same action towards earthquakes because it's an earthquake state. And also the fire is always a possibility for the city, and it happens every year, literally. And so many questions to be asked, to be answered, because also the fire department budget was cut tremendously last year, like $17 million budget was cut, and there were not enough sources to put out the fire in the end. That's why Karen Bass is the target, and that's why it's getting a little more political, because we have a new president coming in 10 days, and he's blaming the Democrat governor of the state. They said that they don't take enough action. He's comparing the current government of Gavin Newsom to Florida's governor Ron DeSantis, because Florida also go through a lot with tornadoes and stuff, but they all put their hard effort to prepare. I'm not taking any sides or anything, but what I've been following, what I've been watching is that they do take actions, and this state literally, unfortunately, failed. I hope they will have enough sources to rebuild the city, but it's going to take time, and it's going to affect our business tremendously. And we have Olympics coming up. They probably, I mean, Olympics are on the way. And also we have a FIFA World Cup for the teams this summer, and we will also have to look for new accommodations and everything, because it's kind of a big tournament as well for the especially soccer fans. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's a pretty vague situation for people, because people just get by the whispering information to everybody, and we don't have proper officials to give us a relief of what's going to happen in the next,
Los Angeles is one of the most famous places in the world, full of Hollywood celebrities and corporate CEOs. Several of them booked TV interviews to talk about what the experience was like for them and what they've lost. But the city isn't just home to the mega wealthy. Many Angelenos lost everything because of the wildfires.
We really didn't think it was going to come over here. And then it did.
That's the area on the top of your screen. I think we can go to satellite view and maybe show you just side of the 2. So for those folks that live right along the 2 freeway and the 210, right now it's pushed more towards the Altadena. And now again in 2025, this is heartbreaking. I feel for these people.
Yeah, this is my house. This is my block right here. So this is where I live, or where I lived. This is my home. The Pasadena fire chief needs to be fired. The captain, whatever his title is, the guy that was standing in front of the microphone and giving us excuses and talking about how squirrely the winds were, all of that was, in my humble opinion, was tomfoolery. That night when we left, it was so frightening. You could barely see I could barely see my hand in front of me because the visibility was so bad. East side was Caucasian, west side was black and other. Okay, that's the history of Altadena. And it feels like, again, facts aren't feelings, that they just said it's on the west side, so F them.
So there's been a lot of reflection in California and across the US about how Los Angeles could better prepare for wildfires, which occur every year. There's a lot of outrage because authorities reportedly decided to defund the city's firefighting service by $17 million in 2024, while ramping up funds for local police by $126 million. But it's important to note that the city was essentially built on a desert where drought conditions have persisted. High-speed winds were also a big factor in January's wildfires. Monitors recorded wind speeds of more than 112 kilometers per hour. That's akin to a tropical cyclone. And that's our show. There were many images out of Los Angeles of utter devastation, which were made worse because of drought conditions and warmer temperatures. But we'll end with these pictures. The people who helped support their neighbors, their friends, even strangers.